Hi, I'm Gunta. I'm from Reizekne, Latvia. That's where I was born and raised, but I have lived in the United States for over 20 years now. Hello.
Hello. It's nice to
Hi.
see you. Um, Hello, Gunta.
Hello, Mara. Ciao.
Yeah, ciao. Thanks for joining us in our kind of inaugural run of having some of these conversations on Saprotu,
Okay.
and
Well,
really just want to hear a little bit more of your story of how you ended up where you are, where you came from, and some of your experiences. So why don't
okay.
we jump right in? Um,
Okay, let's do it.
Tell us a little bit about where you're from, like where you grew up and what life was like there.
Well, I was born and raised in Reizekne, which is the town in Latvia, in eastern Latvia, in Latgale. My whole family pretty much comes from Reizekne, so I grew up surrounded by a big family, lots of cousins, uncles, aunts, grandparents, and I lived in Reizekne until I was 18. Well, until I graduated from high school, and then I had opportunity to come to United States.
And
So when I was 18 and a half, I came to United States and I have lived here full time since then.
and what was that process? What did that process look like? What exactly was the opportunity that was
Well,
presented to you?
well, just kind of really randomly, my mom heard about student exchange program on TV, and she wrote down a phone number and she handed it to me and and said, "Hey, give him a call. See what is that all about."
Thanks,
So,
Mom.
well, but that's really how it was. But it was a student exchange program organized. It really was the first or second year when Latvian Latvian students were, or really anyone from Latvia, was able to travel outside of Soviet Union, because at the time it was still Soviet Union, and Latvia had actually, it was the first year when Latvia had become independent, so we all still had Soviet passports and all that good stuff. But it was Americans that organized this student exchange program. The organization was called Academic Year in the United States. And really, it was a program. It was the program for students to come live with a family, a host family, go to American high school, kind of experience that year in the United States. And I went through a process. There were interviews, all kinds, you had to write all kinds of essays, applications, and so on. And we literally had probably about 300 students applying for the 6 spots. And
Wow.
yeah, and
And
I
so
was
this
from
was for high
Reizekne.
school.
Huh?
This was high school still.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And and I really did not think I had a chance. I mean, we had kids from Riga and everywhere else that went to English speaking schools or study foreign languages on a totally different level than I did. I mean, I was just a girl from Reizekne that decided to try it out. And, I went through the whole process. I did have really good grades. I apparently, they liked me. So, anyways, in the end, I was one of the 6 students that came that were selected to come to United States. So it really wasn't anything that I had planned, since I was 10 years old. No, I had studied English in school, and I kind of, once I got to high school, I took it more seriously and I studied it on my own. And I had maybe tutor for a year or two that helped me out with some grammar and things like that. But yeah, I was I was gonna go to Latvia's Universitāte in Riga and do what most kids do when they graduate from high school in Latvia, but instead I came to United States. And then
And
when I got here, I
right.
was towards that end of that first year, I was able to find a scholarship to continue at the university. So I ended up going to Oklahoma State University and did 4.5 years there. So.
Wow. So was it at all complicated? I'm assuming that the program that initially brought you to the United States took care of your visa information, like,
Yes.
all of that visa lottery and that.
Yes, it was all paid for. I mean, when you put it in perspective, I mean, we were just coming out of, we were a Soviet bloc country. I mean, it was Soviet Union.
Mhm.
No one had ever traveled that I personally knew, to a Western country ever.
Mhm.
We were able to go to Poland and East Germany, and that's if you were allowed to do that. It wasn't the norm either. So for to come to United States was like something totally crazy at the time. Like, I did not know a single American. I did not know. I had never met anyone from United States ever in my life. I had seen them
Mhm.
in magazines, but but that was it.
Do you have some memories of the first, the first year in the States and things that felt really, really different, or on the opposite end, like because you were looking at them from the outside, things that Americans maybe not took for granted, but was normal for folks that
Mm.
were around you, but to you were like some amazing magic things?
Well, everything was surprise. Everything was different. I for we first flew to Boston and we spent about the week there, and then I came to Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I had a really nice family that I stayed with, and but we went out to eat, which um, that was also something that we did not do that much in growing up in Rezekne. I mean, we did eat out, but not like Americans do nowadays and back then. And we went out to eat. I remember seeing people in cowboy hats and boots and like
Yeah, I would
dressed
imagine.
like that. So I had never seen anything like that before. And also, nowadays we have internet and we have Google and we have
Mhm.
information at your fingertips. I literally went to the library in Rezekne and I got the books about America and maps and things like that once I knew coming to Tulsa. And it's still some of the maps in the book showed India, like Indian territory, and, and so I really did not know what to expect. But I mean, everything was different. American high schools are, that was something I had never experienced before. I was shocked by how disrespectful the kids seemed to me. I mean, by comparison, our high schools in Latvia, I mean,
Mhm.
you had to raise your hand to speak, and you had to be super disciplined. There are certain, behaviors that would not be acceptable, and I saw everything. And it was just a regular high school in Tulsa, and yeah, I was shocked by really kids' behavior more than anything. That
Mhm.
was my initial impression. And academically, I also thought that that high school that I went to, no one was required to read the whole book. You just needed to read excerpts from the book, for example. Like, in Latvia, we had much more rigorous schooling, I would say. That was one thing. I was shocked by how welcoming, how nice American people are, how open, friendly, and and I like that. That's one thing that for me is kind of hard to get used to when I go back to Latvia and I don't see people saying hello to each other. And waving at each other and saying, how are you? Whether it's they really care about it or not, it doesn't really matter, but it's nice. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed how welcoming and friendly everyone was.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that's Tulsa too. Maybe it's, people are just nice generally here, I would say.
Yeah, what an interesting part of the United States, because it's so central.
Yeah.
It's very much, I mean, the size of the United States really makes different parts of it very different from each other.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I would imagine, having also lived in the southern US, that
Uh-huh.
people are probably more casual and open. And not that people, I agree with you that in my experience as well, Latvians are a lot more reserved about
Hmm.
outwardly showing,
Yes.
you know, um, greetings and any kind of affection. But
Yeah.
where I grew up in the US, it had a lot more Scandinavian influence, and so
Hmm.
people were friendly, but still more reserved than I think in the South,
Hmm.
where people are
Yeah.
very,
And that's probably true.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But so what exactly happened that made the decision for you to stay? Was it just, okay, I'm going to continue on this adventure? Or
Um,
like
no,
what?
I mean, it was really just opportunities that were presented to you. I mean, at the time, now you have a lot of kids that go to schools everywhere from
Mhm.
Latvia. But when you put things in perspective and you look back to those late 80s, early 90s, I mean, if you had the education from United States, that was really something, or at least that seemed to be the case for me, and at least that's what I thought. So I was not gonna turn down that kind of opportunity. So for me, that was a no-brainer that I have to do it. And my thinking was that I'll do that, and then I go back. Well,
That it would give
life has different plans eventually. But it was never like I never had this really big plan when I'm gonna come to United States. I really lived here, quite honestly, probably for first 10 something years, thinking that I'll just get the experience, I'll get the education, and I'll do that. But eventually, I'll probably go back. But it's the situation changes, and you kind of first you get the education, then you have opportunity to work, and then you have all these other things that come up, and life kind of decides for you, kind of, in a way.
yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
so then my question is, when when if ever did you feel a sense of belonging to where you live now? So to
Hmm.
not necessarily feeling like you feel American, but feeling
Hmm.
like you belong to that place. Do you have a sense of how that happened, or when that happened, or even again, if you even feel that way at all?
I do and I don't. I mean, when I go back to Latvia and you know, I it's a little bit of both, because when I'm here, um, there are moments when I feel really like I belong, and that's what gives me that is when I really take kind of charge and I don't know, kind of start treating everything as this is mine, and this is my life, and so on. And I don't know that it's really belonging to America in particular, but just belonging to a place where you live. So that means being
Mhm.
involved with things and being involved with people, you know, doing all kinds of activities to me. But it's different, when I go land in the Riga airport and in the plane, and I hear the language everywhere. When I go to Rezekne and I see all the streets where I, grew up and walked on, and it's totally different feeling of home. So it's really hard to say, and I do struggle with that sometimes, quite honestly, because I am not from here at the end of the day. I'm still an immigrant in the United States. So I don't know that it fully ever goes away. Actually, in my experience, it hasn't gone away. And for me, it's probably not having a family around. Those are the, not having the circle of people that would be so important to you, I think, and that I grew up just taking for granted around me, not having that anyway, and yeah, I have created some sort of circle around me right now in Tulsa, which I really, really enjoy, and I love all the people. But and I also, my husband is American, he is from Tulsa, so we have, my husband's family here. So there's some of that. But you do give up everything that you had back home, and you kind of have to recreate it. And I think the more effort you put into recreating that and creating that circle around yourself, the better your experience will be, I think.
So here's a difficult kind of part to that question.
Okay.
How exactly do you do that? For you and your experience, I am right there with you in terms of, how like needing, you basically lose that entire support system around you, right?
Yeah.
So what were steps that you took, or even kind of happy accidents that helped you start to build that circle, or start to build those people that you felt like you could trust that could be around you?
Well, it all takes time, number one. It doesn't happen instantly, unfortunately. I think by now I have friends and people that I have known for 10 or 20 years around me. And that's really nice. But, there's no one I grew up with. There's no one that I really, really know super well. But I think that for me, it has been forcing yourself to be outgoing, forcing yourself. Well, I don't really have to force myself. By nature, I'm pretty outgoing, and I love friends. I love making connections. I like meeting new people. So for me, it's not that difficult. Where it's been more difficult is actually developing those deeper relationships that would count for something, really. But yeah, I think it just takes time, and it's not something that happens instantly. You still have to get to know those people. I have connected probably much more with other immigrants here in Tulsa. All my best friends, really for the most part, are from all over the world. And they are my probably really true support system. But also probably having, being married to my husband, who is American and from here, has helped. Because the holidays and things like that, you kind of instantly have plans with people anyways, so you don't have to figure that out. But yeah, I think it's really, those are the times when you really have to just rely on yourself, because nobody's gonna do it for you. You have to do it yourself, and you just try until you find your people, I think.
And
that's how it is for
would
me.
I be correct in assuming that most of this was in the places that you already were, in school when you were in university, and in workplaces, and was it kind of, you happened to be in a place and felt like you started to connect with someone, or did you make an effort to go to new places, or new, I don't even know what you would call them, but somewhere where you wouldn't normally go to try to find and connect with people?
I mean, I've done it all. I've done book clubs. I've done
I love book clubs.
Mom groups when my kids were little. I've done it all, but a lot of it is through work, and also just meeting certain friends who in turn connect you, help you connect with other people. So that kind of, we also in Tulsa have a really nice international women's group. We actually kind of have two of them. And it's been a really enjoyable experience for me to just, because everyone there is kind of in a little bit in the same boat as you are, but they all are interesting women that have come to, to Tulsa for one reason or another. They all have really interesting life stories. So, that kind of joining different clubs, I would say. When someone says, we should get together for coffee, well, don't leave it at just we should, just go and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Or, let's go to lunch sometime. Well, go and do the lunch, with somebody. Take them up on that. So, but it doesn't, I think you do have to put the work into it.
Yeah, you have to maybe be a little more, even if you are outgoing, you have to be more outgoing than you usually would be.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of time. It's a commitment kind of. But you also, some of it is just connecting with people. There are certain people you connect with and certain people you don't. And for me, I found that my best connections are probably with people who have had similar life experiences as me. So, those are just kind of we instantly click, and maybe it's also because those people are also seeking kind of the same things that I'm seeking. So we kind of create that for ourselves. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I think it's taking, going and doing it, and it's not going to happen overnight, but eventually you'll meet people. You meet people you like, you connect with. Yeah.
Is there something that even this long into living in a different culture, is there something about yourself that you catch yourself thinking, oh, that's really Latvian of me?
Oh gosh. I know that was one of the things you said. I even asked my husband, I said, what are the things that I do that are kind of Latvian? He said, being on time. I said, I don't think it's cultural. I think it's personality.
Or opposite, is there something where you feel like you've really embraced like something that you would personally consider as an American trait versus
Yes, I think that I was outgoing before, even in Latvia, I think, but I speak with my hands a lot more. I speak louder than I used to. I laugh louder than I used to. I like the maybe easygoing American style. I don't like the formalities as much anymore. When I go to Latvia, it all seems a little bit more formal, a little bit more subdued, quiet, and that's just different temperaments, different, uh, cultural norms, I would say. But I definitely catch myself being much more open, much more
expressive?
outgoing, I think, in a very American way.
Mhm.
Maybe not obsessing over things like, I don't know, like a lot of Latvians seem to do. So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, and I think that's what is why this conversation is interesting, right? It's different for everybody, but when you're living somewhere else, it feels like it points things out to you,
Yes,
like,
and I do think that it's definitely, for me, it's definitely been also not just growing as a person outwardly in work and career and all that, but also really working on yourself, on your, on your basically on yourself constantly, and constantly trying to kind of figure your way through all these different things. So it's been a challenge, and I don't know. That's why I think, if you're okay with that, it's okay. I think it's doable, definitely for somebody, but it definitely can, it's constantly, I think, trying to kind of figure out how to maneuver uncharted waters, basically, in so many ways. I mean, when I came here, I did not know. I mean, any basics like how to operate a dishwasher, how to. I mean, it's crazy. So all these things you don't really even think about, or you want to participate in conversation at first, then you think of this word, or you want to say something, but then you can't think of that particular word to really convey what you're trying to say. And it's like on every level, it's a challenge.
Yeah, I
So
feel
that's how that's how it's felt to me. And I don't know how it is for you, because for you it's also. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I think it's really been a journey in being vulnerable. Like you have to be, you're constantly vulnerable because you are beholden to everything around you and you really don't know anything. And I wonder if for you, having gone to the United States at the age of 18, I don't want to say it's easier, but like, I've definitely realized that moving at the age of 39, when I've already gone through all these things of thinking like I know who I am and what my career has been and what my values are, and then having to start from scratch and being like, oh, I can't even drive a car here, even though I've driven a vehicle for 20 years.
Exactly.
That vulnerability really is really makes you introspective and can be a real challenge, right? Because you don't necessarily want to have your heart on your sleeve all the time. You really want to protect
exactly, because people will think it's weird. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. And people around you also expect you to just, be like them.
Right.
And
be
then
functional.
you're like,
yeah. Do you, I mean, this is a random question, but do you have any funny stories or anything that you can remember where you just had like a total cultural clash where something, the way that you were going to do it or the way someone was asking you to do something just didn't make sense?
oh gosh. I mean, I'm sure there's tons. And I really can't think. I think some of it, like, for example, the parties and things like that. To me, it was shocking. You mean the parties from 6 to 8 p.m.? Like, what kind of party is that? Because coming from Latvia,
if you're
obviously.
still thinking of that, then you definitely have maintained that Latvian point of view.
So for me, that was like shocking. What do you mean? Like, you're telling me when I'm going home? What kind of host are you? Right? I mean, now I can totally relate to that, because no, it's 11 o'clock, leave my house. I want to get to sleep.
Yeah, and I now go to sleep at midnight and no earlier because that's how things are working around me. So
Yeah.
changed.
So celebrations, I came from a culture of having, weddings lasting 2 to 3 days. That was normal. Birthdays lasting for basically all day long into early morning hours the next day, and things like that. So for me, that was kind of funny to kind of see, that's just one example, but there's so many more. I don't know. Every day there's something. The funny thing is, I've been here for more than 20 years, but it's like still, I think in my way of thinking, I'm still very much Latvian, actually. So I don't know, but you can really change it. I mean, it's I've I think outwardly I've taken on a lot more American, American personality, but still at the core, you still remain, I think, the same person. Or at least that's what I found, I think, to be true for myself.
But it sounds like you've come to a place of comfort with that.
Yes. I think there was a period when I kind of tried to fight it even, but then I realized it's useless. I can't change the whole country or the whole society. It's me who needs to change. And just, come to terms with it and just accept it and not overthink it and just roll with it. And it's been much easier to navigate. Also knowing who you are. It's so easy, I think, when you move, when you change cultures, when you go through all that, to kind of forget who you really are, what you really believe in, what you stand for. And it's easy, in a way, you have to, I think, be a acceptable person to this local place and the ways you think and all that. So you do need to adapt, but also just kind of really, like like really at the core, knowing who you are and kind of really being mindful of that has been super important to me. And that's, not losing the sense of self, and just maybe it comes with being more mature, because in my 20s and 30s, I kind of thought it was all ahead of me, and then you get to your 40s and you realize, oh, I'm here. I'm here probably more than likely to stay. And as much as I love Latvia, have made my life here for right now, at least. So
yeah. Well, thanks for sharing a little bit about yourself and taking some
sure.
time
I hope it's helpful.
Yeah. Well, I think the purpose of why we're doing this isn't to like prescribe anything, but really to share different perspectives and different experiences, because I think there are commonalities to this, but also you're talking about how it makes you think and look at yourself and who you are. I think that's always going to be so individual and really like illuminate certain things about yourself. So
but I mean, for me, it hasn't been always easy. I mean, it has definitely had a lot of ups, but also a lot of downs. I can't say that it's been a smooth route, right? The whole time, definitely. But you kind of work through it.
Yeah. I'm thinking of like all the American cliche like phrases, like roll with the punches. Quite literally, you're getting punched and you're like, okay, I just gotta keep on going. I gotta keep on going.
Yeah.
And
you do.
Yeah.
You do.
And I think, I would imagine, because you're a lot further into this living somewhere else than I am, but I would imagine that kind of you get used to this, I don't even know what to call it, this like discomfort that's always there, that
yes.
kind of not, things don't quite line up 100%. And it's not that goes away, but that you just become
you make peace with it. Yeah, you become comfortable being uncomfortable with certain things, maybe. I don't know, maybe that's the saying, I don't know, but yeah, it's so true.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
It was so nice to see you.
Yeah, it was nice to see you too.